This episode of Inspire AI podcast is sponsored by Exponent 21. I keep hearing the same thing from business leaders lately. We're doing the work, but leads are harder to explain. Traffic is down, attribution feels fuzzy, and the old answers don't really fit anymore. What's changed is how people search. Instead of clicking links, people are asking questions, and AI is answering them. Tools like ChatGPT, Google's AI-powered results, and Perplexity are shaping which brands get mentioned, referenced, and remembered. Exponent 21 specializes in AI SEO. They help businesses understand how to show up consistently inside those AI-generated answers across questions about their industry, their services, and their brand. What stands out to me is that when people ask AI tools, who's leading in this space? Exponent 21 and its leaders are often referenced near the top. That comes from doing the work and shaping how this new search environment actually functions. To understand what this shift means for your business, visit exponent21.com. Welcome back to Inspire AI, the podcast where we make sense of technological change so leaders, builders, and communities can navigate the future with more clarity, confidence, and calm. Today we're talking about something almost everyone feels, but very few people can clearly articulate. Why does modern technology, the thing designed to make us faster, smarter, and more connected, so often leave us feeling exhausted? Not just busy, not just distracted, but psychologically overloaded. Because if you felt lately like the pace of change itself is becoming difficult to metabolize, you're not alone and you're not imagining it. This episode is not really about the AI tools, rather it's about human adaptation under acceleration. We're living through one of the fastest periods of technological transformation in modern history. AI systems are evolving monthly. Workflows change quarterly. Entire job categories are being redefined in real time. And while organizations obsess over productivity gains, many people are quietly experiencing something else: cognitive fatigue, anxiety, digital overwhelm, decision exhaustion, a persistent feeling that they can never fully catch up. Today, we're going to unpack the research behind that phenomenon, what experts call technostress, and more importantly, what leaders can actually do about it. Because the future does not belong to the people who move the fastest. It belongs to the people who can remain effective while everything around them accelerates. There's an assumption embedded in most conversations about innovation, that humans naturally adapt to technological change. And historically, that's mostly true. But what's different now is the speed. The research behind today's episode shows that modern technological acceleration creates a fundamentally different kind of pressure than previous industrial transitions. In earlier eras, technological shifts unfolded across generations. Today, they happen between quarterly business reviews. Think about that for a second. An employee can master a workflow only to have it replaced 6 months later by automation, AI copilots, or entirely new collaboration systems. And this creates what researchers describe as an adaptation challenge, not because people are incapable, but because the brain itself has limits. The human nervous system evolved for periods of stability, interrupted by occasional change. Modern digital environments invert that equation. Now the change is constant, and stability becomes the interruption. That matters because the brain pays an energy cost every time it must reorient itself. Every new interface, every notification, every software migration, or AI update, or every subliminal message poking at you to learn this new platform. Individually, these seem small, but collectively they create continuous low-grade cognitive strain, and over time that strain compounds into stress. Now, the research identifies several major mechanisms behind technology-induced stress, technostress. First one is cognitive overload. It's the most obvious. Too many dashboards, too many alerts, too many channels, too many decisions. Modern knowledge workers are processing more information in a single day than many previous generations processed in weeks. And unlike physical labor, cognitive overload has no visible warning signs. You don't see mental exhaustion until performance starts collapsing. The studies cited in the report found measurable declines in accuracy, attention, and decision-making under techno-stressed conditions. People literally performed worse as digital demands increased. Not because they lacked intelligence, but because overload reduces cognitive capacity. That distinction matters enormously for leadership, because sometimes your team doesn't need more motivation. They need less noise. The second driver is automation anxiety. This one is becoming increasingly relevant in the AI era. Workers are asking questions they rarely verbalize directly. Will my role exist? Am I becoming obsolete? What happens if the machine becomes better than me? But the important part is even uncertainty alone creates added stress. The research cited a massive workforce study in Korea showing workers with high automation anxiety had dramatically higher odds of insomnia or sleep disruption from anticipation alone, not actual job loss. That's critical for people to understand. People don't only react to reality, they react to perceived instability. And AI adoption without communication often amplifies that instability. The third driver is constant learning demands. That's a phrase I've been thinking about a lot recently. We've normalized permanent beginnerhood. Think about that. Modern professionals are expected to continuously relearn the systems around them. And learning itself is not the problem. Humans are remarkably adaptive. The issue is unrelenting adaptation without recovery. There's no pause between transitions anymore, no stabilization period. Organizations often celebrate agility while unintentionally creating chronic exhaustion. The hidden cost of continuous innovation is continuous cognitive reinvestment. The fourth driver is blurred work-life boundaries. This one may be the most socially accepted form of stress in modern work culture. Because technology removed friction from communication, it has also removed friction from intrusion. The office now lives in your pocket, and the research is very clear here. After-hours digital connectivity significantly increases work-life and stress outcomes. People struggle to psychologically detach from work when work is always one notification away. What's the result of that? The nervous system never fully resets, and recovery becomes incomplete. And the fifth driver is information overload. Sounds similar to the others, but we often talk about the information age as though more information automatically produces better decisions. But humans are not infinite capacity processors. Past a certain threshold, excess information reduces clarity rather than improving it. And leaders feel this acutely because now they must filter real signals from hype, durable trends from temporary noise, strategic priorities from endless updates. The problem isn't lack of information anymore. It's the inability to metabolize the volume. So here's where this conversation becomes deeply, profoundly important. Technostress is not merely an employee wellness issue. It's becoming a leadership effectiveness issue because organizations under cognitive strain make worse decisions. They become reactive instead of strategic. They chase tools instead of building capability. They confuse motion for progress. And perhaps most dangerously, they mistake an acceleration for transformation. That distinction is huge because a company can deploy AI rapidly while simultaneously degrading employee resilience, trust, and long-term effectiveness. That's not transformation. That's organizational exhaustion with better software. The best leaders in the next decade will not simply be technologically fluent. They'll be psychologically aware. They'll understand that successful AI adoption is not just infrastructure deployment. It's human adaptation management. And those are very different skills. One of the most fascinating findings in my research is that different generations experience technology stress differently. Older workers often experience higher stress from technological complexity, while younger workers experience more overload and always-on pressure. In other words, digital natives may navigate tools faster, but they often struggle more with digital boundaries. That's important because organizations frequently assume younger employees are automatically resilient to digital stress. I know I do, but it's just not true. They may be more fluent, but fluency is not the same as resilience. And this creates a leadership challenge of one in which how do you build organizations that remain high performing without normalizing permanent psychological exhaustion? That could become one of the most defining management questions of the era. So what you might start realizing is that the most forward-thinking organizations are beginning to understand something profound. The limiting factor in AI transformation is no longer the technology. It's human cognitive capacity. That changes how leaders should think. The goal is not maximum technological intensity. The goal is sustainable adaptation. And sustainable adaptation requires intentional design. I want to highlight several strategies already emerging. Clear communication norms, digital wellness policies, a right to disconnect practice, structured upskilling, resilience training, reduced notification overload, intentional recovery periods. Though beneath all of these tactics is a deeper principle. Humans need periods of coherence to perform well. Constant disruption eventually fragments attention, trust, and judgment. And in a world increasingly shaped by AI, judgment becomes way more valuable, not less. I think the deeper question underneath this entire conversation is this: what does it mean to remain human in an environment of accelerating intelligence? Because anti-technology is not the answer. It's not nostalgic, not resistance to progress, but it's intentionality. Because we are entering a period where intelligence itself becomes ambient. AI systems will increasingly surround every workflow, every industry, and every decision process. And that means the differentiator may no longer be access to intelligence. It may be the ability to remain calm inside abundance, to think clearly amidst velocity, to preserve discernment when everything moves faster than reflection naturally allows. And that's not a technical challenge. That's a human one. And honestly, that may become the defining leadership skill of the next 20 years. So if you leave with anything today, leave with this. The future of work is not simply about learning more tools. It's about building the psychological and organizational capacity to adapt without fragmenting. Because the organizations that thrive in the AI era will not necessarily be the fastest adopters. They'll be the ones that can integrate change while preserving clarity, resilience, and trust. That's a very different competency. And maybe the real opportunity of this moment is not just technological advancement, but learning how to evolve responsibly alongside it. Thank you for listening to Inspire AI. If this episode sparked a new perspective for you, share it with somebody. Share it with somebody struggling, or not, somebody that can help others. Definitely. We're building an organization, a team, and a community around this. And remember, the goal is not to outrun the future. It's to become steady enough to lead through it. So until next time, stay curious, keep innovating, and keep building the kind of judgment that technology can amplify, but never replace.